welcome back! Thanks for joining me again on Misery Point Radio. Glad to know that you're still with me on this crazy journey, hanging out, spreading the gospel, indoctrinating the masses, and paying respect to all of those who dare to share their awesomeness with the universe. Because that's really what this show is all about. Sharing the awesomeness, no matter the genre. You know, I focus a lot on music because that's my background. And especially the metal, because again, that's my background. But those that know me know that for a long time, in addition to playing in metal bands, I also did the singer-songwriter solo artist thing. And occasionally, I still do. Just me and my guitar, and of course my insecurities. So I've got a huge place in my heart for the folk singers, the singer-songwriters, the piano players, the spoken word poets, and the like, because there really aren't many more styles of performance art that are more intimate than that. Just you and your instrument, nothing else to hide behind, fully exposed for the world to see, if you dare to take that leap. And today's guest, Hayden Thomas, has rapidly become one of my favorite solo artists. A young dude with an insane amount of talent and a voice that is deceptively huge and haunting. I find myself trying to describe it to people, but really my words don't do his sound justice. Somewhere in the no man's land between Gordon Lightfoot, John Denver, Jim Croce, and the countless names that are on the tip of your tongue, but you can't quite place them. And that's just a small part of what makes him truly unique and truly memorable. And in a genre that's really crowded by a ton of super talented people, it has become increasingly difficult to stand out in the way that Hayden's art does stand out. So I first met him about a year ago at a songwriter showcase run by my good friend Jeff Tassin, and I remember talking to my wife Marcia about my thoughts on his performance and how blown away we were, even though he only got to play 2 or 3 songs. And I remember thinking, this dude's really going to take this somewhere. And I still believe that. And so after several months of playing tag, we were finally able to meet up and have the discussion that I've been wanting to have with him for quite a while. It was really an awesome conversation, actually, full of some very personal details, some of his struggles, his musical goals, his aspirations, and the insane journey that led him to leave school, pack up all of his shit, sleep in his broken down van, and still manage to record, produce, and release a full-length album and maintain even a shred of sanity. He's a truly humble dude, clearly an old soul on a very personal path. And let me tell you, now that I got to see an entire set, a full performance of both original material as well as some surprise cover songs that I just wouldn't have expected in a million years, my initial thoughts on his level of talent is only reinforced tenfold. I'm telling you, I just don't have enough words to describe how awesome this dude truly is. So, check this out. I'm really stoked to share this with you. I'm really excited that we were able to make this happen, and I'm very confident that after you hear some of the songs that we're going to get to have you hear today on the show, that you will also become a fan. But enough of my pointless yammering and super awkward fanboying. Are you guys ready to check out this interview? I think you are. So get ready, once again, for more piles of awesomeness. Here we go. All right, so I am here live in Silverdale, Washington at the Guitar Cafe, chatting with Mr. Hayden Thomas. Hayden, thanks for joining me today, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, we were saying it's been kind of a long time in the making. I think it was about a year ago I saw you play down at Brother Don's for the first time. And definitely the one thing that stood out about the way that you play is, number one, your voice doesn't sound like it's coming out of your body. It's completely its own character. And then, of course, we'll talk about the contraption in a few minutes. But just your songwriting style and just the way that your songs are like little stories really just kind of jumped out to me as somebody that's a songwriter myself. I just was really captivated by just your entire sound and your presence. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you. So, and you just released, finally, your debut album. Right?
Yes.
Hard Times, Simple Songs. You did the entire album more or less by yourself with some help from some friends, but completely produced and engineered and all that kind of stuff by yourself. Cool. So we're going to spend some time talking about that, but if you don't mind, I always like to get a little bit of history on the people I talk to. So so where are you from? Where's your family from?
So I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
That's where my family's from, but we moved up here when I was really little, about 3 years old. Paulsbo, Silverdale area has been my home all my life. And I love it up here. I just recently moved to Seattle across the water.
Right.
And that was just kind of a natural progression. I'm so lucky to be in such close proximity to an area that has such good music. And
right.
I didn't have to go searching for somewhere that had good music. So.
Was that the purpose for your move, was just to kind of get a little bit more out, to be more surrounded by it?
Yeah, just be more connected with local musicians and just spread my stuff. I feel like I've played almost every open mic in the Kitsap area.
Right.
And there's just so much more over on the other side in terms of meeting musicians. So
yeah, absolutely. So when did you start playing?
I first took piano lessons, was my first instrument. And that was probably at the age of like 7. And I hated it. My parents forced me to practice. And it was just not fun. And then kind of got into guitar in high school and started to branch out with all the instruments.
Instruments being...
So I play guitar, and then I also played percussion in high school, did a lot of marching band.
Okay.
Went on to college to do percussion.
A lot of triangle and kind of like finger cymbal.
Yeah, a lot of tambourine, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it all started with piano, and then ironically, I came back to piano as an adult and fell in love with it for the first time, and started being a piano teacher for a little while.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
So all the way to the other end of the spectrum, from not liking it all to helping other people kind of get in tune with that. Do you have a musical family?
Not too much. My parents weren't musical. I'm the only sibling. I'm the only one of their kids that stuck with it.
Right.
So.
And the piano, for them wanting you to learn it, was that just randomly you had a piano at the house and they said, somebody's going to learn this thing?
Yeah, they enlisted me and my siblings to do it, my sister to do it. And we both did it for a little while, but, trying to get kids to practice is tough.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so when you started going and saying, hey, I do want to pursue music in some kind of a capacity, like what kind of influences were you into? What artists were you listening to? What styles were you into? Because your style is definitely, it's a mix. It's very eclectic. It's hard to identify one genre within.
Thank you. Yeah, I always think of my stuff as just like straight up Americana folk. So I'm always surprised a lot of people say that to me, that it's eclectic. But I have a lot of old school folk influences and new school folk, stuff like Bob Dylan. And then more recently, guys like Bruce Springsteen have really come into my influences. I've gotten a little bit more into the Nashville sound, and people are calling me country sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess that when you look at something like Americana, it definitely just encompasses so many different ambiguous things that you can hear a little bit of country. You can definitely hear a lot of folk. So I definitely hear some old country influences in maybe some of the stuff. So Springsteen kind of later on, some Bob Dylan in there. What else were you into?
Yeah, if I had to come back to one artist, it'll always be the Beatles. That was what was playing in my house as a kid. And as I grew up, I started to appreciate them more and more. They weren't just my parents' band; they were my band. And someday, I hope they're my kids' band.
Sure.
I think they're just incredible in their songwriting.
And they covered so many spectrums too. So getting out past just the pop stuff into some of the really intimate acoustic stuff, and later on was definitely something I think that was underappreciated. And then when did you start singing?
About the time that I got a friend's guitar, which was in 6th grade, and I was terrible at it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I was terrible at it, which was a good thing because I just kept doing it really loud and proud. And it kind of developed, just keeps developing. I'll listen to recordings of myself 6 months ago. I'm like, yikes, I've come a long ways.
Yeah. Do you find yourself with like your style of singing, are you having to tune your guitars in different ways to get your voice to match up with it properly?
Not too much. I'm trying to stay out of my lower register, which is really easy to do. when I'm playing like bars and stuff, I'm trying to bring my voice up just so people can understand the words, because I feel like that's an important part of my music. But I'm usually just kind of a standard tuning cowboy chord kind of guy.
Okay, awesome. You use a lot of capos?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Switching keys up. So from the time that you started playing and you're kind of developing your voice and your style, when did you start actually playing shows?
Really haven't started playing shows of my own music until recently, especially moving to Seattle. More opportunities have came up. But it was only like a year and a half ago I started doing the open mics over here. And Guitar Cafe was one of the first ones I did. And just kind of developing my ability to speak out and hone my performance chops, but it really didn't come till about a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Were you playing covers previous to that before you started doing your own material, or did you just go right into doing your own stuff?
Pretty much my own stuff. I guess I did used to perform as a teenager on the streets. I would busk a lot.
Right.
That's where the suitcase contraption came from. I built that at age 15. And it's exactly the same as it was when I built it then.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that in a little bit, but since we brought it up again, the suitcase contraption, first time I saw you, Brother Don's, I'm like, what the hell is this dude doing bringing all this stuff in here as a suitcase? There's this big wooden stand, and then I said, that's going to be a kick drum, and then sure enough, so that was born out of the necessity just as a busker having something kind of as background for yourself.
Yeah, just filling out the sound and standing out, turning heads.
Yeah.
And it definitely worked.
And were you playing that sitting down at the time, or were you standing up on the street corners hitting that kick drum backwards?
It started out with an actual kick drum, and I was standing up, but I was going to break an ankle if I kept doing that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was curious why you didn't just have a kick drum. So I wasn't sure if it was a gimmick or if it was something, but the busker story kind of makes sense because you're carrying less bulk around with you.
Yeah, I still busk in Seattle a lot, and it carries all my microphones and cables, so it doubles as a carrying case and instruments.
That's ingenuity, folks. So when did you decide, though, what direction you were going to take musically? Were you always kind of drawn to that acoustic singer-songwriter stance?
I think so. I was listening to like soft rock bands when I first started writing songs, like current stuff like Snow Patrol and Lifehouse. I guess it's not so current anymore, but
depends where you are, I guess.
Yeah, but that was the stuff that really got me into songwriting, and then started going more towards Americana and like the traditional folk stuff.
Right.
As a teenager, I just started to appreciate it more.
So, as I was saying earlier, every song is really like a story for you, I've noticed. Everything, and they seem very personal. And the title of your album, Hard Times, Simple Songs, have there been hard times? I mean, is this born out of, some challenging points in your life? Or
Yeah, definitely. I think all good songs are born out of hard times.
Yeah.
It's funny, there's actually a song called Hard Times, Simple Songs that I'm going to play tonight. That didn't make the album, so it ended up being the title.
That's ironic.
The title of the album, but yeah, it's not on there. But definitely, yeah, there's a lot of personal struggle in there, and I think all good songs tell a story. So
sure.
I kind of like to. People always ask me like, where did this certain song come from, or who am I talking about there?
Yeah. For instance, who is Emily? Or My Father's Son seems like a very personal song.
Yeah.
Is that really about your father, or is that just an all-encompassing?
It's definitely about my dad. It's about my parents and my grandparents. When I released the single,
which is the first single that you're releasing off the album, right?
Yeah. It was the only single I released from the album, and the cover was my grandpa when he was younger, standing out in front of his car holding a rifle, and that image kind of stuck in my brain. And the song is a lot about that kind of thing. There's a line in there about him being a proud Marine, and that's my grandpa. So
yeah.
So this next song was the single off the album, and if you've heard me live before, chances are you've heard this song. It's called My Father's Son.
flooding in the valley, let it flow, flow, flow. If there's trouble in your heart, then let it go, go, go. Yeah, play signs to learn. If there's fire in the hills, then let it burn, burn, burn. And the tides are never still, so let them turn, turn, turn. 'Cause I know, yeah, I know, I know, I'm just my father's son. My mother's eyes, I've got no holy blood. No royal ties can make no peace among these warring tribes, but I do what I can. Oh, I'm not some prophet king, oh, wealthy man can't be the shepherd of no blessed lamb. I'm never on the gun, oh, raise a hand, I can't save anyone. I'm just my father's son. Live life your way. If a man loves a God, then let him pray, pray, pray. There's a song in his soul, then let him sing, sing, sing. 'Cause I know, yeah, I know, I know, I know, I'm just my father's son. My mother's eyes, I've got no holy blood. Oh, royal ties can make no peace among these warring tribes, but I do what I can. I'm not some prophet king, oh, wealthy man can't be the shepherd of no blessed lamb. I've never on the gun, oh, raise a hand, I can't say anyone. I'm just my father's son. Diamond, but we only found gold, the most precious of things, are full of blood, not gold. So I'll listen close to every story told. Yeah, I'll listen close, 'cause I know, son. My mother's eyes, I got my grandma's look, grandfather's smile. I'm telling everyone I'm not some child, they make me who I am. A hard-working man, he's a proud Marine, and every time I sing, I know he's led someday. With his voice he gave, I can do anything, I can be anyone. 'Cause I'm my father's son.
That song, when I listen to it, it has kind of an almost like southern country kind of a vibe to it. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's just kind of what, when I was listening to that, I was like, yeah, this seems very, which is why I asked you where you're from. It almost felt like it came from down south, and I don't know where that song came from, but it definitely invoked that kind of image, in my head when I listened to it. Is he, what part of the country was he from?
My grandpa, my mom's dad, she grew up in upstate New York. So,
okay. So I'm way off.
So, yeah, it's not south, but it's very rural.
Right.
Small towns, everyone,
Sure.
in the town, and it's kind of a similar vibe. But yeah, that original riff from that song just kind of popped into my hands one night, and that kind of started the whole whole vibe of the song. So.
Yeah, that's got some really cool kind of syncopated finger picking going on there, which is really awesome. And Emily, of course, seems like, is that about somebody you know?
Yeah, ironically, Emily did the backup vocals on my album, but the song isn't about her.
Okay.
So I didn't even know Emily Cartham, who did the backup vocals on the album, when I wrote the song. And it just so happened that she...
so you had a song called Emily, and then you worked with somebody named Emily, but they aren't the same Emily.
But they're not the same person, so there's a lot of confusion there.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Emily's just kind of about a friend who you can call up anytime in the middle of the night, or just wherever they are in the world, and you know they'll answer, or they'll get back to you, or they'll be there for you. And
sure.
I think, just kind of that universal idea.
My favorite one is Famous Without Friends. And the first time I heard it, I literally left Brother Don's singing it, which is crazy because your stuff wasn't released yet. I couldn't download it. I mean, I was kind of trying to YouTube stalk you, but you didn't really have your YouTube stuff going yet. So
yeah, I'm not so good at internet stuff. I'm getting better.
Yeah, no, I struggle with that as well. The social media thing and me is we're not the best of friends, but we're getting there. So that song, though, I think what I liked about it was that it definitely seems like I want to do what I want to do, but I still don't want to lose contact with the people that helped me along the way. Is that kind of what that song is about? Yeah,
I wrote that song. That was the first song I wrote off the album. I wrote it when I dropped out of college. I was a music major. And as I got home back in Paulsbo, I was kind of missing all my friends, and they were all doing their thing across state. But I knew this is what I needed to do, and this is what I really wanted to do with my life. But I had to kind of break away from what was some of the best times of my life.
Sure.
And I feel like that's something that every musician ends up doing, especially if they're in a small town. They just have to make their own path.
Yeah.
And even if it's not music, like if you want to go to law school or something, you kind of have to choose your own personal path and your friends, and just accept that they'll always be your friends.
Yeah, you might go in a different direction, but you can always circle back home later. So you were studying music. What were you wanting to do with that?
I really want to compose for media. So one of my dream jobs would be to make music for video games. So I was doing a lot of stuff for orchestra. I still like to mess around with that. I'm trying to get back into it now.
I think I saw a post you might have done something about writing for like 8-bit style stuff or digital gaming related stuff.
Yeah, that was probably my electronic demo reel.
That might have been what it was, yeah.
Yeah, I like to do all facets of music, so that was kind of my little dipping my feet into electronic music.
Oh, cool.
And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Yeah, I've tried to dabble in that myself, and I guess I'm just not smart enough. I'm not versed enough. Are you like in theory and things like that? Can you read music and?
Yeah, I'm a huge music theory nerd. That's my favorite thing about music. I like to think of music as numbers and equations, and I don't know any other musician that can say that.
Yeah.
It kind of ruins the fun of the music for most people, but it's like a unsolvable puzzle for me, and I like to. So
when you approach a song, do you approach it from a theory standpoint, or are you just kind of, you hear a tune in your head and then you just kind of make it fit that way?
It's both. Theory has a strong impact on my songwriting, but I think the best melodies just come, from when you're singing in the car or the shower, and you just have to go with your instinct on that.
So when you were in school, did you study like production or music production, anything like that?
No. That's one of the reasons I left school, was because it was all, you either had to study classical music or jazz, which is very hard to find a job in these days.
Right.
And I wanted to produce music. I wanted to make music on a computer. I wanted to do songwriting, even if it was just simple 4 chords.
Sure.
And they weren't. The school I was going to wasn't really catering to that. So.
Right. And you recorded, as we said earlier, your entire album. That was all you. So how did you go about learning that process, and when did you decide that I'm actually going to do this all myself?
Well, I went to the studio a couple times. And it really hurt my wallet. So I thought, you know what? I'm a do-it-myself kind of guy. And I just started tinkering away at it. And it took me over 6 months to do the whole album, and every time I thought it was done, I'd go back to some of the first songs I recorded, and I'd just have to remix it, remaster it, because I was learning every song.
Sure. And what are you recording into? What program did you use?
Logic Pro.
Logic. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you're an Apple guy.
Yes.
Awesome. So the quality of that is, for somebody who's self-taught and with a relatively small amount of time from start to finish on that, is pretty crazy.
Thank you.
How did you just like sit there and with YouTube and books and just learn that stuff along the way?
Yep, a lot of YouTube and a lot of just trial and error, finding what sounds right. That's probably my most insecure aspect of the album is the production, but people tell me that, you know, it doesn't get in the way of the songs, and that's why I was hoping that the songs speak for themselves. So.
It doesn't. It's not loaded up with effects. The vocals sit really nice in the mix. You can hear the guitars.
Thank you.
You can hear the backup vocals, and you had somebody, maybe the Emily that we were talking about. You can hear some really awesome female vocals on some of those too. So everything just sits really nice. I was like, wow, you did that all yourself. That's crazy. So. And you recorded this at home, or did you go to different locations to do that?
Nope, it's all in my bedroom, yeah.
A full album out of the bedroom. And did you do all the mastering, or did you bring that to another spot?
Yeah, the album is 100% me. I even did the artwork on it, so, yeah.
And you played all the instruments, or you had some help on certain songs?
I did. The one instrument I didn't play was violin. There's an actual violin for the intro of Emily. I wanted something that sounded a little more authentic,
right,
and natural. So my friend Marissa recorded the violin on that, and I mixed it. But yeah, everything else is me. So
that when I first heard you, and you're playing by yourself tonight, so Famous Without Friends, on the recording has a really cool vintage guitar sound that you don't hear live because you're not playing that guitar. Mm-hmm. What guitar is that? I just got to know.
That is a Mexican Stratocaster. That it's my first guitar, my only electric guitar, played through a Vox Valvetronics.
Okay.
So a solid state amp.
How are you? Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Well, thank you.
I was like, how is he getting that? Because I know that's not like a really old guitar, but it sounds very vintagey.
Yeah, I used Jason Isbell tracks as reference. He has a track called Speed Trap Town, where it's just him doing acoustic, and you can tell it's just like a microphone just real close on him. You can hear the room behind him, but then halfway through the song, this guitar, this really nice, warm electric guitar just like burst in, and it's so like rude about it. And I was like,
jarring.
That's what I want. I want it to sound like that.
I've been holding dear. I know it all looks sweeter in the rearview mirror. Pack up all your shit, throw it in a car and call it home. It's funny how you lose yourself when you're alone. Driving over state line, but I'll be back again. Find some damn excuse to go visit all my friends, then write a song about them and say it will suffice, and post it on the internet so they know I'm still alive. 'Cause I've been feeling such a fool, thinking I should head back to school and get myself an old-fashioned job behind a desk, instead of sleeping in a broke-down van, playing in rock and roll bands. Oh, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. No, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. Oh. High school was a faint dream, college was a rush. Sometimes living in the moment still isn't enough. They say just keep moving forward and you will find love. It's like falling in a deep dream, you never know which way's up. 'Cause I've been feeling such a fool, thinking I should head back to school and get myself an old-fashioned job behind a desk, instead of sleeping in a broke-down van, playing in rock and roll bands. Oh, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. No, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. I'm watching beyond the coastline, where the sea meets the sky, thinking there must be something between them that I can't see, no matter how hard I try. Like the chances I've been given, no opportunities pass by. Write a song about the last time. Oh, I remember I truly felt alive. 'Cause I've been feeling such a fool, thinking I should head back to school and get myself an old-fashioned job behind a desk, instead of hoping that the sun will rise again, knowing that I live without a plan. Oh, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. No, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. Oh, I've been feeling such a fool, thinking I should head back to school and get myself an old-fashioned job behind a desk, instead of sleeping in a broke-down van, playing in rock and roll bands. Oh, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. No, I don't wanna be famous without my friends. Oh.
I don't know if that's how I would describe it, as jarringly rude, but it hit me. I was like, God, that just sounds so, I don't know, that verb on there is just killer. It's got that really slight vibrato kind of hanging in there. Yeah,
I was using the whammy bar a lot on that.
Yeah, no, It's awesome, but it's not overdone. I mean, It's not like, you're freaking pounding on that thing and dive bombing or anything. But that was pretty awesome.
And you actually will hear a little bit of that tonight because my friend Coleman Evans is gonna be playing some electric guitar. So
cool.
He's gonna do a solo on that song. He's a friend since I moved back to Paulsbo. We've been good friends for a couple years. And same with Emily, who's gonna sing with me tonight. And it's nice being back here because it's like old times. I used to play these songs with them. So
that's cool. And so do they play with you out in Seattle at all, or
not yet? I need to get those guys over there.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, Emily's going off to Nashville for college pretty soon, so she's got big things ahead. Big things ahead.
And are you playing a lot of shows over on the Seattle side?
Yeah, I've only been there for about 2 months, but I've been getting at least a gig a week, and I'm going to be getting a full band together, so hopefully I'll be getting some bigger Friday, Saturday night gigs. But yeah, people seem to be taken to it. They keep asking me to play, so
yeah,
I'm very thankful.
The full band thing, would that be kind of you want to make that the thing, or would it just be something you do once in a while?
I want to make it the thing. That was always the idea when I started writing these songs. I always had the full band arrangements in my head, so that's why I had to do the album with all the parts, because that's kind of how I've been hearing it in my head.
If you go that route, or I should say when you go that route, how is that going to affect your songwriting? Will you still be primarily writing the parts, or will you be collaborating with others? Because that's one thing that I've learned a lot about people, that they produce a lot of their own materials, they write all their own stuff. You introduce other people into the mix on a permanent basis. You're like, I'm just not used to this. How's this going to work? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, it's something I struggle with the most. I'm a control freak.
Right.
And I like to have the parts exactly how I wrote them, but I'm also not a master of all my instruments. So,
sure.
It's nice to have someone who can do stuff on all those instruments that I can't do. And I really think that some of the greatest bands, that's how it happened. Like the Beatles, they were all just, you put all four of those guys together and you get that amazing sound. But them alone, it's not quite what it was with them all together. So.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a good analogy there. So initially when you released your album, it was just digital, but now you have physical as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got CDs.
Awesome. CDs for sale. And so what are we going to expect out of tonight's performance? What songs are you going to be playing?
I'm going to be playing almost the entire album, and I've been really going to town on new songs. I have about 1 million songs that aren't quite finished yet, but I have some that I luckily have finished, so I'm going to be playing those tonight. I've got
cool.
one that I was writing this afternoon that I'll probably be playing. So,
you started it this afternoon, or
no,
you just kind of got it and it's ready to play stage by this afternoon?
Yeah, I just got in a state that I want to show it off to people, but I've been picking at it for a couple months now.
Yeah,
it's usually how my songs are. There's very few songs that I write in like one day.
Sure. Yeah, it's a long-term process sometimes. If you've already got material written, though, are you already thinking next album stuff, or?
A little bit. I'm definitely taking a little creative break in terms of recording. That it was a lot of work mixing and mastering the album. And I'd like to take a little bit of time away from the studio for sure.
Yeah.
It's creatively draining releasing your own albums. So I'm trying not to think about that, but it's always in the back of my mind.
How many takes did you do on a lot of those songs? Did you just scrap a bunch of takes and constantly start over?
Yeah, there were, like, those guitar solos were a lot of takes.
Yeah. I don't have the patience for that. I tried to do that. I tried to record all my own stuff. I've got thousands of dollars in gear, and it just kind of... I podcast with it. It's completely overkill, but it's fun, I guess.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. So we're going to see the majority of your album, plus some new stuff, plus some guest musicians.
Yes. Yeah. So Mike Barnett, I just heard him. I've heard him a couple times before, but I really heard him last night at the open mic here, and he just blew my mind. So I'm super excited to hear him. Coleman Evans is going to play a set in the middle of my set, and then he's going to join me for my final set. And I'm going to do a couple covers, so I'm excited for that, yeah.
Do you want to tell me what those are?
I kind of like to leave those as surprises.
Oh, it's going to be a surprise, folks. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing you again. I'm looking forward to kind of hearing the full album and I guess comparing sonic notes in my head with what I hear on the album versus hearing you play them again live. It's been a long time since I've heard you play. So why don't you tell the folks out in podcast land, where can they find you in the world on social media and everywhere else?
You can find me pretty much on Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud is Hayden Thomas Music. If you just Google Hayden Thomas Music, you'll find me in a bunch of places. And my music is on Spotify, iTunes, and all those good streaming services.
Streaming and for download as well?
Yes. Yeah,
Awesome.
It's just Hayden Thomas.
Cool. And they can order your CD off your website?
It's just in person, so come find me.
So you guys have to go find him. You have to track him down. You have to social media stalk him. Yeah. Come check him out anytime you see him play. Go support your local artists. Buy their merch. Hook them up. So, hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, out of control awesomeness. No other words to describe it. So as always, thank you for hanging out with me today on Misery Point Radio. Don't forget, subscribe to the show on all the platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all those crazy podcatchers. And now, I'm going to leave you with one last song off the album Hard Times, Simple Songs. This one's called Smoke.
I still have smoke in my heart from the fire that went out long ago. And though I thought I burned it all, I still can't seem to let it go. And all this distance probably was for the best. All this drinking couldn't kill the loneliness. Oh, I still have scars on my arm. They're the same ones that we put there. Climbing the fence to your neighbor's yard, swimming in our underwear. And all these memories changing color in my head. Wish I could go back just to fuck it up again. Oh, I still have time on my hands to stop feeling sorry for myself. Burn my trail and pack my bags. Forget goodbye, don't wish me well. And all this courage doesn't make me a man. Poor decisions couldn't change who I am. It's not the fancy things you own, It's not the places that you are. It's not your own voice on your shoulders that got you this far. It takes one look into the sky to make you feel real small. Even the world's richest man never thinks he has it all. I still have smoke in my heart from the fire that went out long ago. And though I thought I burned it all, I'm gonna learn to let it go.